Good morning, Commissioner. Steve Schleiker, El Paso County Assessor. Craig and Chuck have already told me the key word of the day today is brevity. So I'm going to make this quick for everybody. So on the first day, God created heavens and the earth and also the El Paso County Assessor's Office. So I just want to share with you guys just some important events of 2019 and brag a little bit about the staff in the Assessor's Office because it was a busy, busy year. Talk a little bit about office statistics, go into a little bit about the reappraisal because I've come before you before talking about the reappraisal, which I feel was extremely successful. The 2019-2020 legislation, a little bit about how successful the office's website played a role in the 2019 reappraisal. Short-term rentals, Airbnb properties, and customer service. So currently where we're at is we have received over 18,000 permits for 2019, so we basically have passed 2018. You know, as I mentioned before, about 10 years ago, I can remember getting that information from regional building, and for 1 month, we would go through a ream of paper. Now we're going through a case or half a case of paper. That's good news. It allows me to keep a pulse on what's going on. There's a lot of remodeling going on, finished basements, you know, bathrooms, updating homes. So a lot of good things are happening here in the community. County and custom maps produced. As you see, there's about a 50% drop there. A lot of real estate agents and appraisers, you know, reach out and ask for custom maps, you know, like, hey, where are all the office buildings in the county located at? And we put that information together for them. But I will tell you, the reason for the 50% drop, the new website. Putting more information out there for our citizens to use. Subdivision plats, this was basically information. Craig has been, and his staff have been flooding my office with a lot of subdivision plats. But this was, last number was as of mid-May, because we, you know, basically closed the books and finished up the tax warrant, delivered that to our county treasurer. But we're probably, by the end, gonna be really close to what we were in 2018. Right now, over 40,000 deeds were processed in my office. My titles and deed staff are working between 175 to 200 deeds a day. That is a lot of work that's happening here. Single-family res inventoried and measured, which is new construction, just shy of 3,800 homes that we were out there inventoried and measured. And we increased in 1 year total taxable schedules by 2%. So we went from 279,000 to 283,496 taxable schedules. If you add in the exempt and, you know, schedules, we are the largest county in the state of Colorado with over 300,000 parcels. What I'm most proud about is we're doing this with 51 full-time employees. So we are the smallest staffed Metro County office in the state. Number of appeals. 2018, of course, was an intervening year, so the only folks that got a notice of value at that time is if there was a classification or a use change on the property, or if it was new construction. So we mailed out, you know, really right around 50,000 NOVs. 2019, as you know, being a odd year, is a reappraisal year, so everybody got the love letter from Steve Schleiker there on May 1st. And when you're mailing out, you know, 283,000 notices of value and you receive 5,500 appeals, which is less than 2%, folks, we're doing the right thing here in El Paso County. Our stats were far lower than any metro county in the state of Colorado. In fact, Larimer County, 25% of their total parcels appealed. So we're doing good things here in El Paso County. Disabled veterans senior homestead exemption. We had a total of 696 100% disabled veterans apply for exemption. So total today is we have 2,203 100% disabled veterans that are getting that property tax exemption here in El Paso County. Senior homestead exemptions, we processed 3,304 applications to bring our number over 27,000 seniors in El Paso County that are on the senior homestead exemption. So to put that in perspective, is we have as many seniors in the senior homestead exemption in El Paso County than some counties have a total population, for example, Teller. So total HV approvals, we have 210. What HV is a senior that's in the senior homestead exemption, but they are also 100% disabled, so they are in both programs. The reason why we keep that is because if the legislature deems it necessary not to fund the senior homestead exemption, these are folks that can fall back on the disabled veteran and still get that property tax break. Here's some interesting stuff that's happening here. This is like a report card from my office to the state and also to you. It's the abstract of assessment. And if you look at the 2018 numbers to the 2019 numbers, our total number of taxable schedules was increased by 2%. The total assessment was increased by 13%. That's what the market is doing here in El Paso County. And then the total revenue from property tax went up 10%. That was huge, and that is why I want to share with you is my staff did a wonderful job during appeals because a lot of property values, single family, went up double digits. I went around the whole entire county, held a number of open houses, and some of you all joined me, but some of these neighborhoods went up 20–25% in value on average, and just trying to get out there and explain that information to folks, and it has not calmed down at all. So here's what's happened in the El Paso County real estate market. Just pulling this information from the PPAR and also from our information is listings, sold listings up 14.6%, sold listings up 17.2%, active listings are down. We're still in supply and demand. The median sale price, I will tell you as your assessor, I never thought I would see the median sale price in El Paso County above $300,000, and that's where we're at. Days on market, as soon as it goes on market, if it's a home less than $300,000, it is gone. And I'm still seeing bidding wars going on where buyers are coming in offering $2,000, $3,000, $5,000 over asking price here in El Paso County. So list to sold is the same. As mentioned, the 2019 reappraisal, we analyzed over 43,000 sales. And we have already begun the 2021 reappraisal because our data collecting period will be done on June 30th of 2020. So we are already seeing increases in values on homes that were sold during the same time frame. I am not projecting major value increases that we saw in the 2019 reappraisal, but on some of these properties we're seeing probably 5 to 10% increases, not the 20–25%. But we still have quite a few months of data collecting to do. Many of you all are very familiar with this map. I know Commissioner Gonzalez was concerned about some of the neighborhoods down in his area, such as Eastboro, Valley High, Hillside, of why they went up 30%. But that is a very hot market right now where those properties are less than $300,000 and folks are getting into bidding wars down there on some of those properties. So to talk to you about some 2020 legislation, as District Attorney Dan May went into some concerns, I will share with you is I don't have so many concerns. There's some legislation that will affect the assessor's office, but I want to share with you what my thought is on some of these bills, if they're good or bad, if I support them or not. So as you guys know, the 2019 and 2020 residential assessment rate dropped from 7.2% down to 7.15% for tax year 2019 and 2020. The projected studies already based on the single-family residential values throughout the state of Colorado, they're already projecting the residential assessment rate to drop from 7.15% down to 7.13%. But again, we won't know what those studies are until next year, but the projected from the state is they're looking at it, it could be 7.13% already. So we're probably going to be looking at another drop in the residential assessment rate. As you see here, just what's going on, the issues with the Gallagher Amendment, which is also a big factor when it comes to short-term rentals, Airbnbs. Many folks wonder what other states are doing. And it's really not a big issue in other states. And the reason why converting short-term rentals or Airbnbs from residential to non-residential is because the increment between residential and non-residential is a couple percentage points. But however, in the state of Colorado, you're quadrupling the taxes on these properties, and this is where the big concern comes in. So 2020 legislation. House Bill 2010-52 is privacy protections for human services workers. If you did not know, about 5 years ago, Treasurer Mark Louderman and myself, we assisted some House District representatives to block domestic violence and sexual abuse victims from the Assessor's website. We thought that was the right thing to do, and now they go through the address confidentiality program, and there is no way to figure out where these individuals reside. So now they can actually be property owners here in El Paso County. We also went ahead last year and worked with Representative Terry Carver to block child welfare workers. After talking to our DHS director, Julie Crow, and just the number of threats that these employees were getting for going in and, assisting, our young children, it was the right thing to do. So now what we're looking at is the privacy protections for human services workers as well. Valuation of energy storage equipment. It's not a big deal here in El Paso County. What they're looking at, if this is stored equipment, it's in storage, you basically should value it, as such. Here in El Paso County, I believe when it comes to business personal property, if it's stored and not generating an income, I don't pick it up. So I'm okay with this bill. House Bill 2010-83, I emailed you guys on this, nursing home definition for residential property. Folks, I'm all in on this. These are homes that are providing care for our seniors or, folks that need additional care for 30 days or less, but these are nursing homes or facilities that are paying a commercial rate. So we only have a handful here in El Paso County, and it's not much of an impact. To be honest with you, I really thought they were going to push for those type of properties to be exempt. So you're looking at Pikes Peak Hospice facilities like that. So I'm all in as far as dropping those to the residential rate. Senate Bill 20049, I've talked to you many times about this. I'm very passionate about this. It was actually heard at committee yesterday, so I'll be looking that up this morning, what the results are. But I will continually fight to expand the senior homestead exemption here in the state of Colorado for our seniors. And what the medical necessity bill is that the senior needs to downsize or move because of a medical condition, and we all here by a show of hands can probably relate. Our parents, our grandparents, our friends who can no longer maneuver the stairs. They have a false hip, or they're in a walker, or they're in a wheelchair, and they have to convert their main floor into their master bedroom. So they're only using a third of the home, or they have to move to be closer to a dialysis center or their primary care physician or the VA clinic off of Fillmore. But what happens is these seniors lose the exemption and they never are able to get back into it because they have to wait that 10-year window. So I tell you this, I will sit there and continually fight this until I get enough nods to get this across the finish line. Senate Bill 2109, of big discussion right now is on short-term rentals property tax. I don't think this is going to get any motion whatsoever. I've actually talked to Senator Gardner in regards to this, and here's what we're looking at, is we need to start the conversation in regards to what are we going to do in regards to classifying and valuing short-term rentals. And the discussion is, do we sit there and we basically make everything fair and equitable and leave them at the residential rate and then drop the bed and breakfast to the residential rate? Because here's the difference. If a bed and breakfast stops serving the bagel, guess what? They go to the residential rate. And that's by definition. So I've had many conversations is if you stop serving the piece of toast or the bagel, you go to the residential rate. Or the other conversation is...
So be the bed and lack of breakfast.
Absolutely. As you can see, I do a little bit more than the bagel. So, but I will also sit there and share with you is there's conversation going on, and this is the reason why I'm glad Senator Gardner pulled this bill, is to start the conversation at the state level. Is this something we want to take to the voters? And why would you want to do that? Is because when I sit there and talk to basically non-owner occupied short-term rental owners, they admit I am a business. However, Steve, the increment between residential and non-residential will kill me. It's crazy. So the idea came up is if you take it to the voters, would the voters determine if the residential or if the rate would be 13% and cut it in half? Then going all the way to 29%. So these are discussions that I think need to be happening, and this is what I held at the open houses, because again, what I don't want to have happen is legislation thrown down our throat from mountain communities or Denver. Senate Bill 2148, I am in definite support of this. Property tax exemption value adjustments. As you know, the senior property tax exemption currently is $200,000. So basically, the value, what happens there is if your home is $200,000, 50% of that first $100,000 is wiped off, and you're valued and taxed at $100,000. Well, maybe that was the median value of that home back in the year 2000 when we all voted in referendum A. Today, there is no way that home is worth $200,000. So what the legislature is looking at, and I'm hoping this gets a little bit of grip, and I don't know, I got my fingers crossed, is to up that value to $435,000 and 50% of that. That would be a huge, huge benefit to our seniors. So, believe it or not, folks.
Yep. Commissioner Williams.
If you go back to the legislation. So I do believe that the short-term rentals, addressing it in the legislature or addressing it on the ballot is definitely the place for it. I know that there's been efforts to address it through assessor legislation or coming up through CCI, and this is a policy decision by the state legislature. The other thing on the homestead exemption, I just thought I would give you a caveat that might make you laugh. So my dad is 90, and he and my sister is his caretaker. They had to downsize because he couldn't get up the 14 stairs. So they downsized into a main level living with there's a rec room upstairs on the upper level. So at age 90, my dad's bucket list consists of one thing. He would like to see the second story of his house, and that's it. So, and he can't get up the stairs to see it. So that's an example. People don't realize how serious it is.
Thank you, Commissioner. In fact, those are phone calls that I get weekly. And, you know, when the seniors come into the office and we share those types of stories, when I ran for assessor, that was one of my top priorities is, you know, basically the sanctity of the senior homestead exemption. And like I said, I will continue to fight for that. So if it does not pass this year, I'll have this face right back up there again next year and just keep it going until I wear them out and they finally say yes. So thank you.
Can I stop you for just a second? Commissioner Vanderwerf.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. I appreciate also you're kind of coming up here and talking about the bills that you're going to be fighting for. It's good for us to know this. And back to the senior property tax exemption, the medical necessity, I think there's another, and perhaps you're using this, another really important component to the need to support this in order for this to go forward is we have a housing shortage. So when we create an environment that keeps people from moving out of a house they no longer need, it's not only a problem for them, it's also a problem for the market because that house could be better utilized for another family that's larger and needs that whole house. So it's actually causing secondary problems as well that I think is another component of why this should be passed. It's ridiculous to stop this for a senior that's in need for medical necessity, needing to move to a smaller property, and to take that exemption away from it just doesn't make any sense. And we need these homes for the housing shortage that we have.
Absolutely, Commissioner. And I will share with you is the senior homestead exemption is a great program. However, over the last 20 years since we voted it in, it has taken away one of the major property rights of our seniors. And it's one of the biggest property rights, which is buy and sell property. Because when our seniors make the decision to downsize or move for different reasons, part of that decision is I'm not going to be able to sit there and get the tax break. I'm no longer going to be in the senior homestead exemption. And when you sit there and look at having to wait for that 10-year window again, and these are folks that are in their 60s or 70s, they're never ever back into the program, which to me is something that we all need to fix. Our seniors, here in the state of Colorado, El Paso County deserve better. And like I said, it's just something I will continually carry the torch and do that because I know the effect it has on our seniors when it comes to taxes, because that is a major part of the affordability within a neighborhood. What are the taxes? And I think our legislature has forgotten, and looking at the history of why they put this forth to the voters back in 2000, If you look at the history, is back in the late 90s and 2000s, our market was pretty hot. And sadly, what was happening is many of our seniors could not pay the taxes. And if you don't pay the taxes, unfortunately, it goes to what we call a tax sale. And an investor gets involved. And they put a lien on the property, and sometimes these individuals lose their property because they cannot afford the taxes. So I feel the legislature has basically lost vision of the purpose of the senior homestead exemption and need to go back to why it was created, because guess what? We're seeing the same thing today, where seniors are having a hard time paying the property taxes when we see values going up double digits. So thank you, Commissioner. So the website, folks, I will tell you right now, we're averaging over 40 million hits a year. I get phone calls going, Steve, can we advertise on your website? Can we do all kinds of things? But it's extremely popular, and we made some really good moves. I will share with you is the data that I pulled, I got with our vendor, because what I wanted to know is how many folks went out to My Comper, which was where I put out the comparable properties during our appeal season. How many people visited that page? How many of those actually resulted in appeals? Because I pushed all of the information out there, so it made the office 100% transparent. So the page was hit, as you can imagine, thousands and thousands and thousands of times, and only 10% of those hits turned into appeals. Here's what that means. More information, more education. Folks are going, oh, that's what my neighbor sold their house for. This is what's happening in our neighborhood. Reduced in basically lower appeals. So this program, with you guys agreeing with me, saying, hey, this would be a nice change for our citizens, played out extremely well here in El Paso County. Craig, Chuck, I'm done.
Mr. Assessor, there are a lot of adjectives I'd use to describe this presentation today. Incredibly smart, outstanding, informative, but brief was not one of them, that's for sure.
I thought you said forever.
Yeah, foreverity.
Well, that's because Commissioner Williams had to ask a question.
Sure.
So.
You need to own this one, buddy. Commissioner Bremer.
And to carry on with that lack of brevity, I'm going to pick up on a few things that you said as well. I think that office statistics slide that you showed with the number of permits, there were several things that indicated to me, huge indicators. First of all, I love the transparency. And I think, the fact that you've just about halved the number of printed out custom maps that you're doing, probably at somewhat of a subsidized cost to the county. I think that just says, having it all online and accessible says a lot of transparency. I think the single-family residences inventoried, the increase there tells me that the new construction, it is happening, and it is happening at a fairly reasonable pace. We talked in our city-county meeting yesterday about housing affordability and attainability. We all know the supply and demand effect of what's happening here. So the new construction inventory, the new single-family residences that are being put onto the market, I think that's a pretty good indicator. I love this report. Thank you. Appreciate it. Great work.
Thank you, Commissioner. In fact, it's my staff. And I appreciate the time allowing me to come down here and brag about them, because they're the ones that answer the phones. They're out there, measuring the homes and picking up the new construction. And I'm the one with the playpen gate up, keeping me at it, bothering everybody. But again, they do a wonderful job, so thank you.
On that note too, I misdialed a number the other day, an internal county number, and I ended up with, I believe, a Brenda in your office who was incredibly bewildered why a commissioner would be calling her, but very, very pleasant about getting me where I needed to be. And I think, if every employee is responding to anybody who calls them and getting them where they need to be, I think that's impressive. They enjoy their jobs.
Absolutely.
Thanks.
Thank you, Commissioner.
All right, anything else? All right,